No, our company is also involved in shale, but only in the US. We had a look at the UK some time back as part of a global survey together with Chesapeake of the US, but we decided against going into the UK.
What were the reasons why?
Well, we believed we were operating more prolific, in a more prolific basin in the US than what the UK could offer. But I think it was primarily what we call the above ground risk, not so much government policy, but it's a fairly densely populated country, this, and there have been obstacles, if you will, to our activities in the Marcellus field in the US as well. We thought they might be even tougher to overcome here.
On the question of drilling for shale gas, I think you said that you expected the exploratory drilling, if it goes ahead, should be completed by the end of next year, 2017.
Yeah.
How long do you expect it would take to evaluate those findings before reaching a decision as to whether or not you want to do it on a commercial basis? What's the time span between the end of your preliminary drilling and a decision to go ahead?
Good question. So typically shale wells decline over an 18-month period from an initial flow rate before they stabilise at a lower rate, which can carry on for 20 years or more. So a 12 to 18-month window would not be uncommon. But that said, these being the very first wells drilled and tested in the UK shale, I'm sure we'll see some surprises along the way that will either accelerate or decelerate that. But that's ballpark where you're at.
Yeah. And if you look at the likely price of shale gas as opposed to imported gas, we had evidence that suggests that there might be some doubt as to whether or not the shale gas can ever be cheaper than the imported gas, given that imported gas prices are so low at the moment.
Yeah, well, so it depends where it's imported from, clearly. And I'm sure you've had evidence to say that, it's pretty widely accepted that by 2030 we'll be importing virtually all our gas. That's not all going to come from one place. So Norway is probably a relatively low-cost supplier of gas sitting next door to us with developed infrastructure. We're probably competing in shale gas with imported LNG. And so if you look at US gas prices at about $3 a unit, add about $1 or so to liquefy, another $1 or so to transport, another $1 or so to translate it back into a gas, you're talking about $6 landed in the UK-ish, which is what we have to compete with, and we're comfortable we can compete at that level.
And Mr. Bell of the Climate Change Committee has said to us that shale gas is only okay if it displaces an equal amount of imported gas. What do you say to that?
It's like the Archimedes principle of shale gas. It's an interesting accounting balance, because you end up with a perverse situation where it's actually better for the climate to develop your own gas. But on your books, it's worse because you don't count the emissions of the production of the imported gas. Now, the climate is not British. I think it's, if you take a sensible view of the world, then if it's lower emissions to develop it here than it is to import it from the US, you should be developing it here. And the situation you find yourself, for example, in Scotland, where we're importing LNG from the shale gas from the US and have a moratorium on exploring for it, never mind producing it, in a country that has led Europe for oil and gas development for 25 years, is beyond belief.
Indeed. Can I just come back to the CCS point? What I'm puzzled about is why, if it's all ready to go, no one's actually doing it on a big scale. I mean, is it cost?
Well, personally, I think, it's the economics that aren't proven. But I think it wasn't mentioned before. You've seen last week some of the very large oil companies, BP, I don't know, Statoil are there, Total were there, are putting some serious money into it again. I think the technology, I personally am quite optimistic about it. I think the technology is there, but people haven't been able to make it economic, exactly. Yeah.
I think so. The thing I learned from the Peterhead experience was you have to spend significant amounts of money going through your engineering design phases to make sure that you've got a credible technological solution. And before anybody commits to spending that sort of investment money up front, you want to be pretty sure there is a firm way of regulating that once everything is established. And at the moment, that mechanism just doesn't exist in the UK. I can't really speak internationally because I'm just unaware, but certainly that's the experience in the UK.
Just a final question, Mr. Egan, back to the shale gas. As I understand it, there are 4 sites in the UK at the moment that are being looked at. There's your one.
Yeah, iGas are looking at a site. I don't know where the other 2 are. Possibly, I know INEOS are looking at a number of sites. There are no production sites in the UK, if that's what you mean.
No, I know that. I just wanted to get a feel for how far ahead the industry is as opposed to your own firm.
Oh, I see.
I understand the problem in Scotland,
yeah,
which you have to understand is tied up with Scottish politics.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I don't think anyone else has got an application in to drill a horizontal well. There is an application in Yorkshire to fracture a vertical well. which is subject to an appeal, and there is an application in Nottinghamshire to drill a vertical well, not even frack it. So I think we're, roughly speaking, I would say about 1.5 to 2 years ahead of everybody else. Yeah. Thank you.
Right, gentlemen, thank you very much for your helpful answers. That brings us part of the session to an end. Thank you.
Thank you.